Fun fact, it's been over 5 years since I last ran down my favoritist ever wrestlers, and well, goodness me, a lot's happened in the wrestling world during that 5 years, hasn't it? NXT experienced its second and potentially last glory period. WWE absorbed the entire indie scene, then spat them out again like a bad prawn, and a little thing called AEW happened, which got me thinking about my list of favorite wrestlers and wondering if the person I am now, because we're all of us ever-changing beings, learning, growing, becoming the director of a board game channel, phases that happen to us all at some point in our 30s, I wonder if that list is still true today, and oh lads, it's so different. Let me tell you how, and let me tell you why. I'm Adam, hailing from partsFUNknown, and here are my 10 favorite wrestlers ever updated. And while you're here, please subscribe to partsFUNknown. We hit 200,000 subscribers over WrestleMania weekend, which was lovely. Let's get to 250. Number 10, MJF. You know what I like? Tricky little dickheads who desperately think they're the hero of their own story despite being swaggering bellends, constantly driving barriers between themselves and the people they love as the result of their wavering ego. I can't quite put my finger on why I like MJF so much. Genuinely though, there's more to my love of MJF other than the easy joke of lol, it me. Wrestling can be incredibly simplistic at times. Implacable, blue-eyed goodness for the sake of goodness and sneering, mustache-twirling villainy for the sake of villainy. This is fine. I like Vince McMahon's evil chicken panto shtick as much as the next man, but at the end of the day, that kind of broad strokes character work is quite easy. And what I love about MJF is that nothing he is easy. He's a marriage of a lot of wonderful things. Old school in his commitment to his character, but new school in offering emotional, psychological depth, understandable, relatable reasons for doing the awful things he does. Plus, he's great in the ring and held his own in a promo war with CM Punk, and that is once-in-a-generation talent. Number 9, Hangman Adam Page. You know what I like? Adams. Not quite sure why. Seriously though, this list isn't going to be entirely AEW, don't worry. Although honestly, if you're worried about that, like, get a grip, my dude. But if MJF has given us wrestling's best modern villain, then Hangman Adam Page has given us wrestling's best modern hero. And sure, this list seems a little late, as no one cares about babyfaces once they're actually on top rather than chasing the goal, but damn it, Page's journey from the birth of AEW to Full Gear 2021 is up there with Punk MJF as the best, most textured, most historically cohesive wrestling stories told in full-on decades. Also, you know what we need more of? Face wrestlers having virtues other than just bulletproof self-confidence and gags. This sounds like hyperbole, but Page is a beautiful unpicking of the standard Hulk Hogan, John Cena template, a reframing of what it is to be decent in an industry dominated by decades-old ideals of heroism. The fact that Adam Page wears the outfit of the cowboy, a creature of throwback values and unexamined bravado, and uses cowboy to examine what decent masculine behavior is in this day and age, is genuinely inspiring in a way that so few babyfaces actually are. Hulk Hogan offered men the wish fulfillment of being a Superman. Adam Page offers men the wish fulfillment of being a good man. Number 8, The Rock, because he's got jokes. Like, honestly, he's the funniest wrestler of all time, and that counts for a big part of what makes sports entertainment sports entertaining. People were and still are happy to see The Rock arrive because whenever he is around, the chances of a good time drastically increase. And honestly, it's that simple. He was good enough in the ring, including some of the most memorable sells in wrestling history, but his charisma was on another level. His promo style seems a little corny in these PG years, and the way WWE have used Rock in the last few years has dulled his legacy as a shiny beacon to casual fans that often left more industrially relevant wrestlers in shadow. But Attitude Heel Rock was great. Attitude Face Rock was fundamental to the greatest boom period in wrestling history, and Ruthless Aggression Heel Rock was the best. He was the best. Yay, Toronto, yay. Number 7, Bray Wyatt. Like all of us, during the nadir of Bray Wyatt, aka 2016 to 2017, brief exception of Elimination Chamber aside, I too wanted him to go away and take his dirty fridge with him. But now that Bray has gone away, oh man, what a wonderful, weird mark he made on WWE. And not just because he created the Firefly Funhouse, the best dissection of John Cena, WWE, and wrestling ever created. Seriously though, the balls on the man to loudly and metaphorically proclaim wrestling's a bitch in it in the middle of WrestleMania. True hero. But I love myth, lore, weird characters freaking people's dicks off with strange occult language and consistent symbology. As a comics, cryptids, and kooky horror fan, all these things appeal to me greatly. I've always been a big Taker and Kane fan for these reasons, but none of these guys ever had an entrance that blew my tits off as much as The Fiend's debut at SummerSlam 2019. Ridiculous creativity and potentially the most bungled talent of all time. Number 6, Keith Lee. I know. And yes, for consistency of the bit, I should really have had Big Keith at number 1. And while I maintain that Keith Lee is the world's most delicious cake given human form, the type of guy who says out loud, "Don't mind if I do," while standing alone at a buffet, I find him to be ludicrously entertaining. There are a few wrestlers that pip him to the post, and Keith Lee is the kind of guy who'd use the phrase "pip him to the post." But why do I love Keith Lee so much? For reals and for true, it's because he's a man in complete control of his craft, and his craft is making some of the most gifable bits of wrestling ever. I think if someone criticizes Keith Lee as being too focused on individual spots rather than the flow of a match as a whole, that person isn't necessarily wrong. But when those spots are as delightful as throwing Isaiah Cassidy into low orbit, beefing Adam Cole into the crowd, or any of the Rolodex of spots that he and Dominik Dijakovic toured the world with, those criticisms pale. He is a hyper-charismatic memory maker, and that is more than good enough for me. Number 5, Walter. Never calling him Gunther, and not just because I'm stubborn, but also because there is no one like Walter. Not one person out there wrestles a match today quite like this ludicrous Austrian. Particularly in WWE, their character scripting is so bland and certain moves have become so ubiquitous that special attractions are thin on the ground. Walter is a special attraction. Merely in WWE alone, he's put together such a prestigious catalogue of modern classics that it's frankly embarrassing. Do I always want to see Walter wrestle? Not necessarily. His high-impact style can actually be a little gruesome at times, but his CV speaks for itself. Walter versus Tyler Bate, versus Pete Dunne, versus Undisputed Era, versus Tommaso Ciampa, versus Ilya Dragunov. Some of the best WWE matches I can remember, all in the last 3 years. The level of talent and legitimacy it requires to have a chop be a convincing finisher at an NXT takeover, no less, where a Canadian destroyer barely gets a 2. That is absolutely undeniable. Number 4, Brock Lesnar. Yeah, suck it everyone. Brock's great, and you know he is. Do I like WWE using him to crush rising stars? I do not, but that's not on Brock. Okay, sometimes an awful match like the one he had against Dean Ambrose at Mania 32. Sometimes that's on Brock. But look, shut up. He's one of the best in-ring performers in the history of combat sports. He's got insane physical charisma, one of the best, if not the best finishers of all time. He's completely legitimate as a destroyer, has managed to stay a marquee special attraction for a full decade since he returned. He is crazy athletic when he needs to be. He's one of the best sellers in the business when he chooses to be, and he chooses to more often than he gets credit for, by the way. And he's one of the best kick-out artists in the game, and now he's a happy little cowboy mechanic and having the time of his life. Brock's great, and anyone who disagrees is wrong forever. Number 3, Bryan Danielson. 2021 was a hell of a year for the man formerly known as Daniel Bryan. The triple threat at Mania, his final WWE match on SmackDown, debuting at All Out, the time limit draw with Omega, the time limit draw with Hangman. Honestly, years don't really get that much more significant, and he's getting better with age. I used to love Daniel Bryan because he's a peerless in-ring storyteller and has a way of connecting with the crowd, which is borderline supernatural. Now I love Bryan Danielson because of all those things, and also he's the dragon again and spends his days kicking people's heads in and doing so with a potty mouth. The best possible upgrade. It's genuinely a wonderful experience to watch a performer that you really admire doing work that they find genuinely fulfilling. Puts a spark behind their eyes that can never quite be replicated, and right now the American Dragon is having the time of his life. He deserves it. 5 claps. Number 2, Shawn Michaels. The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, has the greatest WrestleMania resume of all time. He is a performer responsible for, when the biggest night of the year rolls around, having the best match on the card. Shawn versus Kurt, versus Vince, versus Taker, versus Flair, versus Triple H and Benoit. His match against Cena is redonkulously good. He is crazy good at telling wrestling stories, knowing exactly when to rest, exactly when to come alive. He almost never blows a big spot. He's had so many big spots in his career. I mean, he's been the wrestler to debut countless new stipulations, Hell in a Cell, ladder matches, Elimination Chamber, because he's quite simply the most reliable big match performer of all time. Fantastic seller, stellar technician, amazing finisher. Who's your daddy, Montreal? He's the best. Well, he's almost the best. And number 1, Kurt Angle. Some things never change. I love Kurt Angle so much because he somehow managed to be one of the greatest wrestlers ever and greatest sports entertainers ever, while never letting one compromise the other. It is legitimately unbelievable how quickly he adapted to the WWE style of wrestling and character work. It is legitimately unbelievable how he managed to pull off being someone who everyone knew could destroy pretty much the entire locker room in a shoot fight, whilst also being the locker room's funniest dork. The fact that he could do the sexy Kurt segment and follow it up with the Angle's Michaels match at Mania 21 is a staggering vindication of how there's never been a better WWE wrestler than Kurt Angle. I love him, and my love is personal and subjective and very real. The first pay-per-view I stayed up to watch as a kid was No Mercy 2000, where Kurt Angle won the WWE Championship. Over the next few months, I watched him pull Twin Magic against Taker, survive a six-man Hell in a Cell, throw The Rock around, and have a ludicrously good feud with Chris Benoit, wear a cowboy hat, Milkomania, have his head shaved bald, feud with Lesnar, go Super Saiyan as the Olympic wrestling machine. His run was just so endlessly wonderful, and his combination of top comedy and top ring work just seemed directly designed to appeal to everything I love about pro wrestling. Kurt Angle will always be my favorite wrestler of all time. It's factual. It's damn factual. And that's our list. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Let us know who and why in the comments. Don't forget to like and share this video around if you enjoyed it, and make sure you subscribe to partsFUNknown for more silly wrestling content. Jam that jam.